Welcome to Bio 352 Bioethics at Wilmington College, Class 8 online. Today we're going to take a look at what Campbell calls perspectives and start by looking at feminism. Campbell sees perspectives as cultural and societal values that impact how we see the world. Some societies' perspectives marginalize and devalues women in Western cultures. This has led to the feminist movement and to an ethical approach from a gendered perspective known as feminist ethics. It can be seen as an approach that builds upon the idea that traditionally ethical theorizing has undervalued or underappreciated women's moral experience, and it therefore chooses to reimagine ethics through a more holistic feminist approach. And so it is seen as adding to our current bioethical systems and structures, not supplanting them. An example of marginalization that Campbell discusses is AIDS. When you think of HIV and AIDS, you think of its impact on men, on testing men, on treating men. But according to Campbell, the WHO reported in 2009 that the number one cause of death of reproductive age females in the world was AIDS. The large number of deaths were seen in underdeveloped countries and in countries in which women are highly marginalized due to lack of education. Campbell theorizes that in these cultures, the impact of AIDS has been made an epidemic for women due to their lack of access to contraceptives, male domination, and to other factors. In the cartoon, we see the many ways in which women are undervalued. It's a cute cartoon. More seriously, feminists say that in analyzing ethical dilemmas, there is a difference between the masculine and feminine way of approaching and thinking about problems. This was elucidated by Carol Gilligan, and she looked at a very well-known bioethical dilemma. In this dilemma, Heinz cannot afford a drug that his wife needs to save her life. Heinz passes the drugstore and has to make the decision. Am I going to break in and rob and steal the drug to save my wife? Or am I going to forego this and look for other means, though I know they are very unlikely? 11-year-old Jake says, yes, of course, because a human life is worth more than money. Jake regards this moral dilemma as sort of like a math problems with humans, right? A utilitarian. viewpoint, and then works out the equation. 11-year-old Amy looks at it differently. She does not consider either property nor law, but the impacts on the relationship of the people involved, and in particular, the relationship between Hines and his wife. Amy reasons if he stole the drug, he might save his wife, but then if he gets caught, he might have to go to jail, and then his wife might get sicker again, and he couldn't get more of the drug, and it might not be good. His wife might become so distraught in his stealing that she becomes sick-hearted, and this complicates her illness. So Amy says they should really just talk it out and find some other way to make the money. To Amy, the dilemma is not a math problem with people, but a problem of relationships that extended over time. So Carol Gillikin would argue that we need to take a look at relationship. She would also argue that Hines would have to look at what happened to the relationship to his neighborhood pharmacist and he. And so in looking at this, Amy looks more at relationship, care, and empathy, and Jake looks more from a distance and from a rational aloofness. When we look at feminist caring theory, we look at a move away from problem-centered rational detachment into empathy and caring and how people feel and how the community feels in answering a dilemma. It is centered on caring, empathy, feeling with others, being sensitive to others' feelings, and that these may be better guides than moral rules and calculation of outcome. Relationship is seen as the ultimate important value. And persons are understood to have varying degrees of dependence and interdependence. Those particularly vulnerable need to be particularly considered. And so this idea of caring permeates this feminist view. So in summary, one perspective that has an impact on ethical analysis is feminist theory of care. It comes from feminine ethics, and feminist ethics attempt to revise, reformulate, and rethink traditional ethics to the extent it depreciates or devalues women's moral experience. Of why consideration of marginalized individuals and their needs may be considered more important. It centers on relationship, empathy, and interdependence of people, and on caring for how their emotional and feeling state is.